What if I told you the ancient Greeks built a machine so advanced it could predict eclipses, track the moon, follow the planets, and model the sky with shocking accuracy more than 2,000 years ago? No electricity, no computers, no modern tools. And for over 1,000 years, nothing else on Earth came close. Then one day, it vanished. Lost to history, forgotten by the world, buried at the bottom of the sea. Until a shipwreck revealed something impossible. A corroded lump of bronze that turned out to be the first known analog computer in human history. This is the story of the Antikythera Mechanism, the machine that should not have existed.
The year was 1900.
In the year 1900, a violent storm forced a group of Greek sponge divers onto the shores of the forgotten island of Antikythera.
The place? A tiny Greek island called Antikythera, sitting between Crete and the Peloponnese. A group of Greek sponge divers had been forced to stop there because of a storm. Once the weather cleared, they figured they'd do what they always did, dive for sponges. So the captain, Dimitrios Kontos, sent one of his divers, Elias Stadiatis, down into the water. A little later, Elias shot back up to the surface, completely shaken. He claimed that down below, he had seen dead bodies, women, horses, all kinds of things. So the captain went down himself. And that's when he realized those weren't bodies. They were ancient bronze and marble statues. What they had stumbled onto was a Roman-era shipwreck, probably dating to around 70 to 60 BCE. This became one of the first major underwater archaeological discoveries in history. The Greek government jumped in immediately and sent the Navy. For nearly 2 years, they pulled artifact after artifact out of the sea. Stunning bronze statues.
Then came May 17, 1902.
In 1901, a discovery was made. They found an ancient world resting on the seabed.
An archaeologist named Valerio Stais was examining the fragments when he noticed something weird inside one of them. Buried in the corrosion were gear teeth. Not random metal, not decoration. Actual precision-cut gear wheels. Stais immediately realized this thing had to be some kind of astronomical calculating device. But here's the problem. Almost nobody believed him. Why? Because most scholars at the time thought the ancient Greeks simply could not have built something this advanced. It seemed way too sophisticated for the ancient world. So people brushed it off. Some assumed it was a later object that had somehow ended up in the wreck. Others thought it was just a simple navigational instrument. And just like that, the mechanism was basically ignored for decades. But Stais was right. He was just way ahead of his time. In 1951,
these fragments hold the key. An ancient computer, incredible.
a British physicist and historian of science named Derek de Solla Price came across the Antikythera fragments, and once he saw them, he got hooked. Price spent years studying the mechanism and realized this wasn't some simple ancient gadget. This thing contained at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, and the gear system followed very specific mathematical relationships. In 1971, with help from the Greek Atomic Energy Commission, Price had the fragments examined using X-rays and gamma-ray imaging. And what those scans revealed was honestly insane. Inside the mechanism was a gear train that could track the sun's movement through the zodiac, track the moon's movement, including changes in speed, show the phases of the moon, predict solar and lunar eclipses, likely represent the motion of the 5 known planets, manage different calendar systems, and even track cycles related to major Greek games. In 1974, Price published his famous paper, Gears from the Greeks, where he basically said, this is one of the most extraordinary scientific artifacts from the ancient world. And he wasn't exaggerating. Still, even Price hadn't solved the whole thing. Not even close.
In 2005, if
an international research team came back to the mechanism with way better technology. This team included major researchers like Mike Edmonds and Tony Freeth. They used two game-changing tools: polynomial texture mapping, which made worn-out surface inscriptions readable, and a super powerful microfocus CT scanner, which allowed them to see deep inside the fragments in 3D. What they found blew everything wide open. Finding number 1, more gears than expected. Price had estimated around 30 gears. The newer scans showed at least 37 surviving gears, and many researchers believe the original machine may have had 60 or more. Finding number 2, it had built-in instructions. The mechanism wasn't just a machine, it came with its own manual. Researchers found around 3,400 characters of ancient Greek text engraved on it, explaining how parts of the device worked. Finding number 3, the metonic cycle. One gear had 235 teeth. That number is not random. It represents the metonic cycle, the fact that 19 solar years equal 235 lunar months. That was essential for syncing lunar and solar calendars. Finding number 4, the Saros cycle. For eclipse prediction, the mechanism used the Saros cycle, which lasts 223 lunar months. After that period, eclipse patterns repeat in a predictable way. That means this device could forecast eclipses using a real astronomical cycle known in antiquity. Finding number 5, the moon's changing speed. And this one is absolutely wild. Researchers found a pin and slot mechanism that modeled the moon's irregular motion across the sky. In other words, the machine mechanically simulated the moon speeding up and slowing down. That is a ridiculously advanced idea for the ancient world. Basically, someone in the 2nd century BCE built a machine that could model complex celestial behavior with gears. That is next-level engineering.
So how did this thing actually work? Picture a wooden box about the size of a shoebox, roughly 34 by 18 by 9 centimeters. Inside that box, a dense system of bronze gears. On the outside, dials on the front and back. And on the side, a hand crank. You turn the crank, the gears move, and the pointers on the dials update to show astronomical information. It was basically a mechanical model of the cosmos. Front dial. The front had 2 main concentric scales: an outer calendar ring, likely based on the Egyptian 365-day calendar, an inner zodiac ring, divided into the 12 zodiac signs. The front likely showed the sun's position, the moon's position, the moon's phase, and probably the positions of the visible planets: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. There was even a small rotating sphere, half dark and half light, that displayed the moon's current phase. That alone is such a flex. Back upper dial, the metonic cycle. The upper back dial was a spiral with 235 divisions, representing 235 lunar months over 19 years. This let users track long-term lunar and solar calendar alignment. Inside that was a smaller dial for the Calippic cycle, a longer calendar correction period of 76 years. Back upper subdial, the game cycle. Yep, this thing also tracked major Greek athletic competitions. That little dial included cycles for events like the Olympics, the Pythian Games, the Nemean Games, the Isthmian Games, and likely the Naya. So yes, this machine could help tell you when major games were coming up. Back lower dial, eclipse prediction. The lower back dial was another spiral, this one with 223 divisions, representing the Saros cycle. This dial helped predict eclipses. Some divisions included little inscriptions or glyphs indicating things like whether an eclipse would happen, whether it would be solar or lunar, and possibly details about timing and visibility. There was also a smaller dial for the exoligmos cycle, which refined eclipse prediction over 54 years. So when you turned the crank, the machine calculated all of this mechanically. No batteries, no code, no electricity. Just bronze gears, math, and pure genius.
Now comes the big mystery. Who actually made this thing? Theory 1. Archimedes' legacy. The Roman writer Cicero describes a device supposedly made by Archimedes that could model the motion of celestial bodies. Could the Antikythera mechanism be that exact machine? Probably not. The dates don't line up perfectly. Archimedes died in 212 BCE, and the mechanism is usually dated to around 150 to 100 BCE. But it's possible this machine came out of a tradition inspired by him. Theory 2. Rhodes. A lot of evidence points to the island of Rhodes. Why Rhodes? Because the astronomer Hipparchus, whose lunar theories may match the mechanism's design, worked there. Also, the philosopher Posidonius had ties to Rhodes, and Cicero mentions mechanical astronomical devices associated with him. And the shipwreck's route may also fit that region. Theory 3. Corinth or Syracuse connections. Some researchers have argued that parts of the calendar system match traditions linked to Corinth and possibly Syracuse, which brings us back into the orbit of Archimedean science. Most likely? Honestly, this probably wasn't the work of just one random genius in a garage. It was more likely the result of a whole scientific and engineering tradition, combining Greek astronomy, Babylonian cycles, mathematical modeling, and expert metalworking. Whoever made it, though, was operating way, way ahead of the curve.
So what was the mechanism actually used for? 1. Astronomical prediction. This is the most obvious answer. It let people model celestial events, especially the sun, moon, and eclipses. That mattered a lot in the ancient world for religion, agriculture, calendar planning, and navigation. 2. Prestige and power. In the ancient world, eclipses weren't just astronomy. They were signs, omens, political events. If you could predict one ahead of time, that gave you serious status. Imagine being the guy who says, "Yeah, the sun's going dark next month," and then it actually happens. That's power. 3. Calendar management. Different Greek city-states used different calendars. A device like this could help reconcile and compare those systems. 4. Education and demonstration. It may also have been used as a teaching tool, basically a high-end ancient science demo showing how the heavens worked. 5. Luxury object. The shipwreck was loaded with expensive cargo. That suggests the mechanism may have been a prized item, possibly being transported to a wealthy Roman owner. So this wasn't just a practical device. It may have also been a prestige object, a statement piece for someone rich, educated, and powerful. This might be the most unsettling part of the whole story. If the ancient Greeks could build something like this around 100 BCE, how did that knowledge just disappear? Reason 1. It was probably specialized knowledge. Machines this advanced were likely built by only a tiny number of highly skilled experts. That means the knowledge may have existed in a few workshops, passed down directly from master to apprentice. If those workshops vanished, the know-how vanished with them. Reason 2. Political upheaval. As Greek power faded and Rome took over, intellectual priorities shifted. The Romans were incredible builders and organizers, but they didn't always preserve every Greek scientific craft tradition in full. Reason 3. Economics. This kind of device would have been expensive, difficult, and time-consuming to make. Without elite patrons funding this work, that tradition could dry up fast. Reason 4. Collapse of ancient systems. War, instability, lost libraries, broken trade networks, and cultural decline can wreck knowledge transmission. And once enough links in the chain are broken, whole technologies can disappear. That's the scary part. We like to think progress always moves forward, but history says otherwise. Sometimes civilizations lose things. Sometimes knowledge dies. And the Antikythera mechanism is proof. Today, researchers all over the world are still trying to fully reconstruct the Antikythera mechanism. Working reconstructions. People like Michael Wright built functioning replicas that show how planetary motions may have been represented. Other engineers have created beautiful brass reconstructions based on current evidence. Even luxury watchmakers have taken inspiration from it. Yeah, this ancient machine is so legendary that it has inspired modern watch design. UCL's 2021 model. In 2021, researchers at University College London, led by Tony Freeth, published a major paper in Nature. They proposed a new full model for the mechanism's front display, including how it might have represented the known planets. This was a huge step forward. But even now, no one has completely solved every detail with total certainty. That's because we only have fragments. A lot of the machine is still missing. Ongoing dives. And the shipwreck site itself is still being explored. New expeditions have recovered additional artifacts, including human remains and more bronze material. There's always a chance more fragments could still be down there, waiting to tell us the rest of the story. The Antikythera mechanism isn't just an old gadget. It changes the way we think about ancient people. We love to act like the ancient world was primitive, but this machine says otherwise.
It tells us that over 2,000 years ago, human beings were already combining advanced astronomy, mathematical modeling, precision gearwork, mechanical engineering, and cross-cultural scientific knowledge, all in one device. It's a reminder that genius is not owned by the modern world. And honestly, this machine feels weirdly familiar, because in a deeper sense, it's doing what computers do. You input data, the system processes it, and it gives you meaningful output. That makes the Antikythera mechanism a kind of ancient ancestor to modern computing. Some historians even wonder, if this mechanical tradition had survived and continued developing, could the technological revolution have started centuries earlier? Could history have gone in a totally different direction? We'll never know. But the possibility is kind of mind-blowing.
Today, the surviving fragments of the Antikythera mechanism sit in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. At first glance, they just look like broken chunks of corroded bronze, but hidden inside them is one of the greatest engineering achievements of the ancient world, a machine so advanced it rewrote the history of technology. We don't know the name of the person who built it. We don't know the full story of the workshop that made it, but we do know this. More than 2,000 years ago, someone sat down with bronze, tools, math, and vision and built a machine that could model the heavens. That is unreal. The Antikythera mechanism is proof that human ingenuity has always been here. Sometimes it just gets buried and waits for us to find it again. If this blew your mind, hit that like button, because the algorithm needs a little push from you. Subscribe if you're into ancient mysteries, lost technology, and history that changes everything. And tell me in the comments, what other ancient invention do you think was way ahead of its time? I read the comments. Let's talk.